Greetings gamers everywhere, I'm Sweepy92 and I'm here with a video talking about a game that I will be addicted to on November 7th. Yes, this is Soulstone Survivors and there is currently a demo available on Steam. If you like the type of game that is being shown here, well, check it out. Don't know for how long it will be up there on Steam, but be sure to check it out. It's really funny. I've been playing the demo now for over 10 hours and I'm loving it. I've been kind of working towards maxing out the skill tree just because I can, you know? If you don't have a goal in the game, well, it becomes boring. So, anyway, what is the game? Yes, well, if you have played Vampire Survivors, it's basically, you could call an auto battler. Basically you only move the character and in some instances you also aim where to shoot. Let's say for instance that you have an the archer type class, you aim where to shoot the arrows, that's about it, but then you move the character or where to go and you can dodge in this game. But most skills and abilities are actually automatic. They either shoot out in front of you, so where you aim, or they crash down on a random enemy close by. Passives are also, of course, passive, so they're passives. Basically, the skills are also passive. They just come down from the sky whenever, whenever and wherever. Well, whenever might be the wrong word here. They show up when the cooldown is complete. If you have used an enemy, if a skill is activated, 13 seconds later, if that's cooldown, then it will activate again, no matter where the enemy are or if you really want to use it. And on any enemy, so yeah. If you're aiming for the boss, well, you need to be close to the boss and hope for the best. Now, this game has a slightly different art style, of course, than Vampire Survivor. This one is more cartoony, I would say, but it looks really good. It has more explosions and it feels more fluid than Vampire Survivors did. It's also a bit easier, but we'll get to that in a bit. The game has also a more fluid to both movement and the abilities, and it looks so smooth on when playing, and even when so many things are happening at once, I still feel that the game is doing really well. It had some frame drops when a lot of things are happening at the same time. Like, for instance, I just did this challenge where I only used buffs and my basic attacks, and when all my buffs were activating at the same time, and debuffs that were on the enemy, like decreased damage and armor, the frames would go down pretty insanely because I was shooting my arrows like insanely fast, and at the same time the animation for what was supposed to happen to enemies came up, and the things that the enemies are dropping and everything on that happened at the same time. So yeah, there was a lot happening on screen at once. This also happened when I did a bomber build for another class that I unlocked. So yeah, there can be a lot going on the screen at the same time. Now, developer Gamesmithing Limited also have another game that's scheduled for 2023. I hope this will be late 2023 because I expect that game will also be early access, as this game will launch in early access on November 7th. Now, as I hope that the other game will be late 2023 is because I want them to maybe finish this game or being close to full release when they actually release that game, so they can actually try to focus on like one game at a time. It's a small studio, so I don't want them to be overworked, so to say. But that game is basically the same game, but it's more of a traditional RPG / roguelite gameplay, like third-person action adventure, where you use your abilities manually instead of automatically. They don't go off automatically when enemies approach. It's actually more of a like press this button and the ability activates. Now, as I said, Soulstone Survivors are coming out on early access on November 7th, and if it does run anything like the demo has shown and that I played for 10 hours, this will be good. Now, the developer does have a very interesting and detailed roadmap for the... Well, it doesn't say when the game is coming out full release, but it does show their plan for the early access down to the full release, what they expect to have. For instance, you can see that they want to have like the prologue is the demo. That's the demo. It only has 2 bosses there, the Earth and Ice variant. But then we can see for early access they want to have 8, and for the full release 8 plus out of something. Same with the maps, they only have 3 in the demo, but for early access they expect to have at least 2 more, so 5, and then at full release 10. And I don't know what they say prologue and then they say early access. I I expect that the early access will be over a course of early access and not at the November 7th release of the early access. I don't know, this could be the case. I mean, we could have like instead of 45 skills, we could be very well be seeing with 142 skills. That would be pretty cool, actually. If we scroll down, we can see characters. We have, it says 3 for the prologue, but I believe we have 7, is it? Or something? I don't know. I don't get that, but they are during early access. They want to come up to 14 characters and then 21 for the full release, which is just great. Same thing with weapons. They want to have 105 weapons, which is each character class seems to have at least 2 weapons, so I expect they want to expand and giving some classes 3, maybe even 4 weapons each. And then we have a bunch of other things, and I'm just mwah, I'm gonna be playing this like crazy. I mean, the game is also very good for short runs. I mean, you can complete a run in 15 minutes. My record is like 14 something minutes. So it can be really fast, but it can also, I have also had these runs that take so slow because I've experimented with builds and done something completely weird and just seen, does this work? I had this one where I was running around slashing all the way and it was poison and whatever damage I had and just dashing through enemies and trying not to get hit. I had like 20 HP, like 2 or 3 hits away from dying when I actually killed the last boss. Now the game can be very easy as I said, so yeah, experimenting with builds is very fun. So that is something I actually really like, experimenting with builds just to see how well they do. In this you don't see, oh this will guarantee your death. No, movement is very important in this game, I've noticed. Movement speed and dashing and such is very important. Now, for the full release, or not full release, but in early access, they will have some, I don't know if they're runes, but they call them curses. It's modifiers to make the game more challenging. And that is something really interesting, because that is something I and a friend wanted. Something to make the game more difficult, because it was way too easy. Now you could basically go any kind of build and just complete the game, or complete the 5 bosses. One run consists of 5 bosses. And the runes are unique upgrades to further enhance your character. These are going to be interesting as well, because you can see them. You can see the page in the prologue, the demo, but you can't do anything with them. The skill tree is not bad. It's a little bit basic, but that's not bad. As for game modes and such, I mean standard and endless for early access, and then for full release they say standard, endless, daily challenge. I like that. And Sandbox. I'm curious as to what Sandbox will entail. I mean, there's so much in this roadmap that I could basically make an entire video of it. But I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to speculate too much about abilities and passives and such, what they will have and might have. I mean, I would go nuts. I would go nuts. But as I'm looking at the roadmap, I can see that this is really something, and I'm looking very much forward to be playing this on November 7th. I will be definitely making a video of this. But we'll see what will come out on the 7th. Who knows? There might be much more than I think, or maybe less. I hope there will be at least maybe one of the two maps that are coming out in early access, but if there are only two maps coming out during early access, I expect them to drop later. But I would like to see more classes and abilities and passives and definitely bosses, because the two bosses that are available, they become quite tiresome. But the Earth one was... there is such difference between the two bosses, which I really like. That is just great. Very well made bosses, I think. Although it does create a kind of a balance issue where if you're like competing against any friends or something like that, well, if you get the Earth boss, and your friend get the Ice boss, you're at quite an advantage, I would say. Quite an advantage. But anyway, that's been what I have to say about this game in this video. What do you think? Have you tried the demo? If not, I think you should. I'm leaving a link to the Steam page in the description. I'm Sweepin92, have a great life, and hope some future videos. Bye bye! Ja, nu ska vi se sista bossen då. 100 stack, poison. Oh, där död. Det var svårt.